This topic today, we're talking about how to be calm and connected around your horse, managing fear and anxiety, overcoming fear and anxiety with horses. And this is a really special day, a very exciting opportunity for me to come be just my genuine self with my horse. This is Misty. You can tell she has some feelings about being here today. She's a little sweaty and she's been doing her best to navigate being here today. But the reality is, Misty has been one of my greatest teachers across my whole journey with horses. So I'm in my mid-30s now. I've loved horses for as long as I can remember. And when I turned 20, I got my first horse, which was Misty. So Misty and I have been on a journey now together since she was 9, and I was a excited horse enthusiast with a dream, and she was a mare that had had a few, maybe 30-day start, had been ridden a little bit, and then had been a brood mare for 2 years. She'd had 2 foals, and then she had been kicked out for 2 years and not done anything with. And so the first time I rode her, when she was 9, I went out to Abbotsford. I found out through a friend of a friend that she was for sale. And she was about the same price as my psychology textbook. And I said, I think I'll have to try to take her home, even though our first ride was a bit of a rodeo show. Since our time together, she has been one of my greatest teachers because she is one of the more sensitive mares I've ever worked with. I know a lot of times mares get a little bit of a bad rep because they can be so sensitive, and even amongst the mares that I've worked with, she is one of the most challenging ones that I've had. Misty is what we would call a mind horse. If you're at all familiar with Josh Nichols' relational horsemanship, he's someone that I really look up to and have learned a lot with, and he has found that when it comes to horses, there's kind of 3 main categories that their presentation tends to fall into. We have mind horses, pressure horses, and space horses. And the mind horses, you can tell that they are a mind horse because they have things like separation anxiety, herd boundness. They have a hard time when the environment changes or when people move or things go and horses move around. So if you can imagine bringing a horse like this to an expo, this is kind of like our Mount Everest of horsemanship tasks. Misty, actually, we've done a lot of trail riding. I've taken her to Alberta a few times and worked on cows. So she's actually pretty accomplished in her own right in a lot of ways. But the crazy thing about our story is that when I first got her, I tried kind of with some of my basic horsemanship stuff that I knew at the time, but a lot of it didn't really work very well. And she had high anxiety, and I also would identify as being more of a highly sensitive person. Has anyone ever heard of that term before? Highly sensitive person, HSP? It's kind of a psychology term. But what it basically means is that when they study people, and actually they find that happens in dogs and horses and other species as well, that a lot of the time there's a portion of the population that they just deem as highly sensitive. And what that means is that when they walk into a situation, they usually take in, if the average person takes in 10 pieces of information, a highly sensitive person takes in like 50. They tend to feel things more strongly. They tend to notice the finer details that a lot of other people miss. And if we don't learn how to appreciate the nuances and the details of people who are highly sensitive, we often, they can be criticized, right? Like if I were to say, oh wow, like you're so sensitive, how many times have we heard, oh, that horse is so sensitive? And do we mean that as a compliment? Often not, right? A lot of times we mean that as a bit of a criticism because we don't always know what to do with it. We have done our very best to set up a live moment for you all where not only does she have anxiety, but obviously, so my background is I have a master's in counseling psychology. I am a clinical counselor, so I work with people in traditional counseling settings on managing anxiety and fear and what we do with that. But I also love horses, and I can't help but notice that, yes, my horse struggles with anxiety, but my gosh, when her anxiety and her heart rate comes up, that's also happening for me too, right? As much as I really do enjoy public speaking and getting chances to teach. Good girl, good job, Misty. I really enjoy being able to teach and share some of the things that have really helped me on my journey. It's interesting that anxiety is one of the most transferable emotions that both horses and people face. So as mammals, anxiety serves a really important function, right? So in a horse herd, if everyone's calm and grazing and all of a sudden one horse on the edge of the herd lifts their head quickly because they saw something rustle in the bushes, that anxiety ripples through the herd and all the horses put their heads up because they need to know, is that a bear or is it a bird? Like, do we need to, maybe a wolf or a cougar, do we need to run or are we safe? And so anxiety being transferable is a very adaptive thing when we're in the wilderness and we're trying to survive cougars and bears. However, it doesn't tend to serve us very well when we're in an arena and there's actually no life-threatening thing happening right now. So that's one of the first takeaways I want you guys to make note of, is that there is a difference. The main difference between fear and anxiety is that fear is you're afraid of an actual physical threat to your sense of self. So if Misty were to rear up right now, I would be afraid. Because, having a rearing horse that might come down on you or step on you, that's an actual threat to your physical safety. However, what do we actually see from Misty right now? Well, she's got her buddy. I'm going to talk about the window of tolerance in a moment and explain why we've set up today the way we have. But anxiety is this nervous energy, this feeling of I can't sit still. It's this thing is it could go really badly, but it's actually not going badly right now. If I were to stay really grounded in the present moment, I have to actually acknowledge that there's no actual threat to my physical safety or well-being. And that's very, very important to distinguish. Our emotions give us clues about if our needs are being met or not, and our negative emotions are telling us when our needs are not being met. So when it comes to fear specifically, the need that we need to meet, if we can meet the underlying need, the emotion tends to get a lot less intense very quickly. And underlying fear tells us that we need protection from danger, right? So if she were to go up into rear or be bolting around, I would need some type of way to protect myself from danger. However, anxiety needs support to approach the thing you're anxious about so that you can increase mastery. And so this is where, if we know that anxiety isn't about trying to get protection, it's actually more about rallying support and encouragement to approach the thing that we're anxious about so that we can increase our sense of mastery over it. That really starts to change what we do as we plan our horsemanship sessions and even just how we navigate life in general. So this is why, now we're going to come full circle as to why we've set up this demo today as we have. So you can see that we've got Octane and Emma. Octane and Misty are their own little herd of two at home, which means that when they get separated, it's not just an inconvenience, it is truly like a matter of survival to them. And it would be easy to maybe get annoyed and be like, oh, could you just stop being so anxious already? But the tricky thing is that for both horses and for people, our emotions tend to be more unpleasant when we fight them. And so if we can instead find ways to shape that energy towards something more positive and meet the need underlying the emotion, we tend to do much better. So when it comes to horses, kind of come full circle, we talked just for a second about mind, space, and pressure. That comes out of the relational horsemanship work from Josh Nickel, and I recommend if you're more interested in learning about that, he's got a great website and a master course about relational horsemanship that you can check out. But with mind horses specifically, they need to know who's taking care of the world, and do you care about my thoughts? Can you speak to my thoughts and add value and a sense of peace, as opposed to maybe making it worse or missing the things that are important to me? There's actually a mantra that I found my parents were the ones that kind of initially taught this to me, and I don't know if they learned it somewhere else, but they had this phrase that when something would come up, they would say, if it's important to you, it's important to me. Not necessarily because I also have the same interests that you do, but because you matter to me and you care about it, I'm going to dial in and take it seriously too. So I ended up, I was doing the best I could with online videos and learning from people. And I eventually, when I finished my master's degree in counseling psychology, I figured out that I also wanted a master's degree in horse training. Now, you don't go to a university for that. You find someone that you really like their horsemanship and you try to follow them around long enough to soak up some of their wisdom. And thankfully, I got a chance to move up to Josh's ranch from September of 2019 to September of 2020 and be their camera person, helping out with some of their YouTube videos. And it really changed the way I saw horses. It really shaped my eye, right, as I was filming and watching. Josh and a lot of his advanced instructors and advanced students are very, very gifted with connecting with horses on a relational level. Hi, honey. Good. Did you see even that moment? So the thing that has changed radically with Misty is that I have now become more aware of her thoughts than her actions. And so yesterday we talked a little bit about boundaries. Shiloh was the mare I brought in yesterday. She's more of a spatial horse. With Shiloh, you earn street credit. You earn her heart by adding clarity in the space. Space horses need spatial clarity to feel like their needs are met. Mind horses need to feel like you see the world, you understand the world, and you're taking care of the world. And so the way that Misty, it was funny because I was doing a lot of the groundwork stuff and I could, she's really trying her best here. I'm so proud of her today. But you'll see that even when I do things like if I ask her to disengage her hind end, good. So notice this, I can move her body, I can ask her to move a shoulder, good girl. But where's her mind? Isn't this interesting? When I engage the space with this horse, her mind leaves. And of course, there's a big window there with lots to look at. These are the looky horses, right? The mind horses they just want to take a look at everything. Now her mind, her thoughts on the ground, smelling the poop. If I come back in, so this was a horse that I was trying to do all of my kind of foundation fundamentals, my groundwork pieces. Hello. But did you see, looks at me for a second and then straight back over to the horses walking past. Right? So the key to a horse like this, a mind horse, is not actually moving their body more. I mean, sometimes you can get it done, but what is most interesting, what earns this horse the best, is talking to her thoughts first. Because if you've ever heard some of the old, I forget which cowboy said it first, but if you can direct the thought, the feet will follow. So this idea, the more conscious that I have become, the more aware I have become of my horse's thoughts, the more we have developed a bond. So I've kind of given you the background, the leading up pieces as to how we're tackling this today. But this is where I'm going to get a chance to, we're set up perfectly. I've got some helpers on the side to show you this. This is a really amazing exercise that I learned from Josh, and it's called free liberty work. And this has completely, radically changed our relationship. She told me it's ready. She's ready. It's time to let her loose. So this in free liberty work, it's a little different than traditional, good girl, than traditional liberty work. It's not necessarily about trying to get the horse to circle you or do something specific. This is about having an honest conversation where we take all the ropes off and we simply want to know when she has the free choice, where does she want to go? Perfect, awesome. So what do we see first? Obviously, this is a big deal for her. Like I told you guys at the beginning, this is like the Mount Everest of challenges for Misty. She's a mind horse. She loves trail riding. Being in an environment where everything is changing and moving, this is like the biggest challenge for her. And she can be great on cows. She's really capable in other places, awesome in water, but this is her challenge. So the first thing, obviously, she's gotten sweaty. She was pretty sure that when we came and we went into that stall and she couldn't see Octane anymore, even though they could touch noses over the top, it has been very, very hard for her to regulate. And so if you guys, I don't know if any of you had a chance to watch Tick Maynard's Starting the Young Horse in the Morning. He had this really great way of scaling, saying that, he's always reading the horse's anxiety and stress level on a scale of 1 to 10. Hi, honey. Hello. So did you see for a second she looked at me and then now where's she looking? Where's her thoughts going? But I'm okay with this because she actually, the drive-by pieces are so valuable. This whole idea, if you've ever watched a little bit of Warwick Schiller's stuff online, this idea that hey, I saw that. And when they see that you saw that, that's with these little moments where we earn street cred with them. It's kind of like a marble jar. If you've ever heard of Brené Brown, she's got this awesome analogy for how we build trust with people, but I think it applies to horses too. That trust isn't this one-time big decision, I trust you or I don't. Trust is built in the small, seemingly insignificant moments that add up over time. And she has this like story from when her daughter was in school, and the teacher in her daughter's classroom had this marble jar, and whenever the class made good decisions, the marbles would go in, and whenever they collectively made poor decisions, the marbles would come out. So they had a visual representation of how much rapport they had at any given moment. And I think it's similar with horses too. So even like the moment when Misty's looking at the ground and wants to roll, and I go, I see that you are thinking that. And then I take the halter off and let her roll. That's like a moment of attunement. That's where we earn them. And so anyway, so this whole idea, coming back to the free liberty work, this has been a game changer for me because it gives her an opportunity to honestly show me where her thoughts are. Hi, honey. Good girl. And again, so it's not surprising that in this hey, good girl. Perfect. Oh, close drive-by. Did you see her hesitate? She slightly slowed down. She thought about standing near me. And I just always wanted, this is like data collection mode. It's basically like yeah, good girl. Awesome. So there's kind of 3 stages of free liberty work. We first turn them loose, and we observe where do they think they need to be. It's almost like the person who wants to be the stove toucher. They're like, I'm pretty sure the answer is over here. And like, you try to convince them over and over, and then eventually you're just like, okay, go try it. Like, you need to learn? Okay, that's okay. But the first stage is just, good girl, can you put your eyes on your person? So it's almost like a hot or colder game where we've turned her loose, we've let her check in, we've watched where her mind has gone. And of course, this is most likely what's going to happen is she probably is going to think that octane is the answer, right? We're going to try to work within her window of tolerance. I didn't get to finish that thought at the beginning where I was saying about tick, but just that he was saying this morning that when he's working with a young horse, on a scale of 1 to 10 on their anxiety level, he's always trying to teach them stuff when they're under a 3 out of 10 on their anxiety level, because that's when you have access to their thinking brain, right? Have you ever had that feeling when you're trying to train a horse to do something, but they're so like anxious that you feel like you're just not getting through? This is where same kind of thing, we'll just give her for a second here, like that I am trying my best to set up a situation where she can try all the options and eventually learn that I'm the answer. So this is kind of something, you can't really do free liberty work by yourself. You need at least 1 or 2 other people who can help you. But she's trying different things, and we're going to set this up where I'm going to come stand a little closer to this side, and we're going to do something where we're not going to chase her, but we will add pressure to her every time her mind is not on me. So that was perfect. She was thinking over there, she's thinking of going to octane, and the first thing is, can she just put her mind on me? She started, but we didn't really get her landing with me. So Emma, if you don't mind coming forward, bumping her again, come and bump her. So basically all Emma does is come and fills the space and says, try something different, Misty, and as soon as she starts to move her feet to try and change pick another option, we let her move, and we let her travel, and we let her see where she wants to go. Again, so where's her thought? Can you guys tell where her thought is? On the poop in the corner. Perfect. So I'm actually going to move away. And again, this is a super fun exercise because I don't have to be the pressure. But this gives her an opportunity to try everything in the arena. And it's like Sophie's choice. Is she going to choose octane or is she going to choose me? And Emma, you can let her come all. Good. Perfect. Hey. Hi, honey. Hi. Hello. Hi. And so I'll tell you, this has like radically changed my relationship with this horse, because when I try to put a halter on top of her anxiety and contain her to keep her with me, we almost always just end up fighting. And it doesn't feel good for either of us. But with the free liberty work, it gives her a chance to choose. And you can see her mind has kind of left. However, how close in proximity is she to me right now, right? Like when you think about horse herds, they don't always just stand right next to each other all the time. She was in my herd bubble for a moment, and now she's off trying again. So I'm going to kind of set up another option. I'm going to walk over here. And again, just like we're in a little bit of a smaller arena. Yeah, you can go ahead and bump her there, Emma. Good job. Great job. And all we're doing is we're not chasing her to me. We're not trying to, you can bump that thought again. So this idea of all you need to be able to do is come in and change the space a little and say, try another option. Oh, she's thinking that's the answer. Bump her again there, Emma. Great. Nope, not the answer. Okay, let her go there. She might, nope, okay, bump her again. Awesome. And this is the thing where it's like, we can literally, we will do this for as long as it takes, honey. Perfect. Because I'll tell, yep. Oh, good job. Oh, classic mind. Oh, okay, and you can bump her there again, Emma. Ah, hi. And this is another piece that's super important. Hi. Whew. Is that when her anxiety perfect. Does the drive-by? No problem. Yep. I will tell you the first time that I had a chance to do this activity, I had Misty up at Josh's arena, and she was so herd-bound for another horse in the other side of the arena. Hi, honey. Hey. Hi. Good to see you. And the hard thing with me, and I'll just kind of like get a little more personal with you guys, is that, shocker, I've also struggled with anxiety too. I'm a deeply feeling human as well. And I tend to feel things very deeply. So sometimes there have been times in the past, yep, you can actually bump that thought because she's still not quite hooked on. Good job. Good. This idea, hi. Oh, hi. And then we'll see if I come this way. So do I have her thought yet? Not quite yet, so I'll get yet. Perfect. She can try as many options as she needs to. And maybe what you'll do, Em, come in a little hotter and just like, because she's not really, there. Yes. There. Oh. Make it a little more uncomfortable to pick other places. Hi. Hey. Oh. Bump that thought a little bit. Yep. Good. No problem. And we'll let her work this out. Good. Yeah. Perfect. Hi. Again. It's okay. She looked for a second and does the drive-by. That's okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. And if she needs to, she can go all the way around. So this is one of the tricky things. Yeah, someone bump her there. Yep. In fact, it would, good. Good, hi. Yep. Bump that thought there. Yep, good. Hi. Hello. Hi. Perfect. So this idea that when I'm with my person, the world becomes quiet. It's kind of what we're trying to get to with this free liberty work. And I'm not in the best position to be able to see you guys, but I'm going to stay right here because this is where she put me. And that's awesome, right? So this is the longest she's picked me. Perfect. Yeah. It's okay. Good job. And Emma, when you bring up your energy, you can just kind of ramp up that idea of like kind of coming in slow to start and then get a little hot. You can walk in there. Yep. Come and bumper. Yeah. And then there. Come in one more time. Yeah. Good job. Hi. Hey. Hey, kid. Hi, honey. Kind of have that nicker and that flutter the first time. There. So this idea that she can touch the stove, so to speak, as many times as she needs to. And in an ideal world, I want her to start learning that when she comes to be with me, when she puts her, first of all, it's just, can you put your eyes on me? Good girl. First of all, just, can you put your eyes on me? Second is, can you bring your feet to me and stay with me? And then the third phase of the free liberty work is, if I move, will you move your feet to go with me as well? Good job. And so this is where obviously, she is still very connected to him, but this exercise gives us an opportunity to be able to be, Emma and Octane get to be a herd of two, Misty and I get to be a herd of two. And the hardest thing is that obviously, I'm teaching and trying to explain to you as we're going, but when we do this, just the two of us, this also requires a lot of groundedness and presentness in you as a person. This is actually in my therapeutic work, when I work with people in a equine-assisted therapy setting. This is one of my favorite therapeutic activities because I'll tell you, the very first time I did this activity, I really wanted her to connect with me. But when we are in stress and anxiety and fear ourselves, we often disconnect from our bodies as a way of preserving ourselves, right? Like this idea that we will often go offline, it's like our freeze response. We just kind of numb out and we go, oh. And I'll tell you too, the first time I did this activity, it was really tricky because I was also personally going through a season of grief. I had lost a relationship that I thought was going to be my forever relationship had ended, and I was really working through a lot of pain and rejection. And then I go to this clinic, and I'm trying to bond with my horse in this relational horsemanship way, and she wants nothing to do with me. And it was like, oh, like it like gutted me. I'm like standing, it was funny because I think from the outside, if anyone had been observing me from the outside, I would have looked quite stoic, but inside I was just churning. And so no wonder it was hard for her to pick me, right? Like even today, as I'm kind of doing the dual thing, I'm telling you what's going on, it's a little harder for her to land with me because I'm not just 100% dialed in to being able to be the landing pad for her. Ah, yeah, fair enough. Which is why we're also like, we're working with it as we go. But the ideal spot, it's crazy because she was driving by, but it was like I was so shut down that it was like she almost looked at me like I was a fence post. I wasn't even a living being. But the more, this is where being able to do breath work, and I was able to have the supports around me to help her bring her attention to me. And the first time she actually picked me, it was this like huge emotional experience where I actually like almost fell to the ground and cried just because it was like to be chosen was such a big deal. So this is like, it can be very therapeutic. And also, if any of you have ever heard about attachment styles, has anyone ever heard of what attachment styles are in psychology? So they have this whole theory of attachment where we tend to have 4 attachment styles. They tend to be secure attachment, where we can be close or we can be far apart and we still stay connected and secure. Anxious attachment tends to be like, don't go too far away, I want you to stay really close. Misty has a little bit of an anxious attachment with Octane, which makes sense. Avoidant attachment, which is where we just want our space and we're a little more avoidant, and disorganized is kind of a mix. And we can all have different versions of them. But for me, I'm a bit of like a recovering anxious attachment person. So for me to be able to be comfortable with people coming close and also for people to leave and for me to be okay with it has been a huge part of this work, just helping me become more securely attached. So as we kind of come back to, hi honey, what we're going to do is we're going to see if, as we work with her anxiety, I'm actually going to see if I can start drawing her thoughts. Maybe Emma, if you come in and bump her again, because I'd kind of lost her just a little bit. Ah, good, good. Oh, and now her thought is out the door. We'll give her that for a second. And then maybe, Kara, if you can step in and bump the thought once more. And I wouldn't even mind if she traveled all the way around Octane and went all the way, but basically just all Kara does when she comes into bump is that you basically try to picture that the spot, like kind of the space level around that horse, wherever it is like you can't pick there. So pick, once again, bump her there. It's like you can pick anywhere, but not there. Perfect. And then we'll see. She's pretty tired, so she's not moving around as much as she would. Hi, honey. Hi, sweetheart. Yeah, fair. And I'll tell you, sometimes, I don't know if, that moment when she comes and decides to potentially check in, Kara, maybe if you kind of come around this way and I'll come over here. And maybe take Octane a little farther back to that corner, Emma. Perfect. Hi. Noticing where their eyes are really important. And this is really good. So Emma, yeah. She's, of course, where does her thought go to her buddy that might leave? Yeah, good. And we're going to get a chance tomorrow to play a little bit with both of them at Free Liberty. But this idea that she's still, again, has she really picked me? Maybe not. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying, hi, good girl. Just trying to put her in a point of tension where she can potentially look. And right now we're kind of getting it done with like she has picked me spatially, like she's landed in I almost think of it like a helicopter landing pad. It's like, have you landed in the zone with me? But of course, where have her eyes gone? So the way we test this, it's like, where are your thoughts really? Have your thoughts really committed to me yet, or have they gone somewhere else? So this is where if I turn and go this way, perfect, and then you can come in and bump them. Perfect. And then pause there. Awesome. Hi, sweetheart. And I'll tell you, even in this moment, the more I can do to help her, because when we feel anxious, one of the things we need to be able to do to become more self-aware is to know, what are the thoughts I'm having in any moment? What's the feeling I'm having? And what's happening in my body sensations? And I can feel right now, even for me, obviously I'd like her to pick me. My heart rate is a little elevated. My attention is a little bit in multiple places. And all I'm going to try to do is try to ground myself to a point where I can genuinely become a good deal to her. Right? Like, why, just for a second, think for a minute, why does she want to be with Octane so badly? Well, she trusts him, right? She's been with him. Yeah, you can bump the thought right there. Good job, yeah, good job. Good work. And you know what we might even do? Why don't we keep Octane there, and Kara, you can kind of come in and bump a little bit more so that Octane can kind of stay in one spot with Emma there. Perfect. And then Kara can kind of help with that. Perfect. Good, good. Yeah, awesome. Good. And she can go around if she needs to. Like just all it is kind of come in and make it big enough that it's like, not there, honey. Anywhere but there. Yep, no problem. She goes by you. She's like, oh, I think Octane's the answer. And then that means that Emma can step in and just come in. Oh, yeah. And you can just kind of, all I want you to do is come in and take the ground under her feet. So wave your flag enough so that she has to move with a little bit of haste out of the spot that she's in. It's like, you can pick anywhere, honey, but not there. Try another choice. Awesome, yep, perfect. Hi. And she thinks about coming there. Fair enough. And then come in and bump that thought again. It's like, yeah, not there. Good. Ah. Hey. Hi, sweetheart. Sweet. And I'll give her that, right? Like when we're at home and we're not in the environment where all the horses are moving around and everything's changing, you know, we can get this done a little differently. But this is actually, I'm just so thankful for the opportunity to come to one of the hardest places that it's ever going to be for her to mentally hook on. And just give her a chance, like even though her eyes are still on Octane, she's physically at least landed in my zone, right? And so this idea of like eyes on, her eyes are on him, but what I can do too, and this is kind of a fun thing, is that the flag doesn't always have to mean pressure and moving away. So her thought goes over there to the horse moving, no problem. And then of course, yeah, so it leaves again. Again, when the world gets uncertain, she's pretty sure that the answer is Octane. So Emma, come on in there and just say, just move that. It's like, move your feet somewhere else, honey. Good. And she has, do you see how she didn't ever let go of that thought? So keep coming with your flag until the thought changes. So keep coming with your flag, move your flag, and also, yeah, it's okay, good. But she hasn't let go of that thought, right? So then keep in, bump the thought again. Ah. Has she really oh, maybe, but she never actually let go of that thought. Can you see that? So that's what I would love to be able to train your eye, is that she still hasn't let go of that thought. So I'm going to move back again. We're going to create another opportunity. Yeah. And this idea that it's kind of like, if the horse is really trying, I don't cook up energy. But because she's not really letting go of that thought, you have to bring up enough energy to say, hey, honey, try another choice. Yep. Perfect, Kara. Keep coming and say, yeah, good. Not that. Okay, give her that for a second. And then we'll see. Where does she want to go? Oh, well, and bump that thought right there. Yeah, no, not quite. Whoa, maybe, and there, hi. And this is the key, is that for me, good girl. The thing I'm trying to engage most is this idea that a lot of times when our horses don't choose us, we sometimes take that personal. And so that's why the topic for today is calm and connected, because a lot of times even when I'm working with people who have survived trauma, I'll ask them the question, do you feel calm and connected or calm and disconnected? Because calm and disconnected usually points more to dissociation, where calm and connected is usually more a sense of togetherness. And so what I need to be able to do in this moment is to be able to I almost think about having my feet underneath me on the ground, and I take deep breaths, notice my heart rate, and the thing I'm telling myself in this moment is, if you want to come be with me, great. And if you don't want to be with me, great. Either way, I'm okay, and I'm with you for as long as it takes. Because sometimes I remember when I first started doing this, I wanted her to choose me so bad. It was almost that kind of needy energy of like, please, 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 please pick me. And it almost made her want to pick me even less. But this is kind of the mark of what we ideally have in secure attachment, right? Like, if you want to be close to me, great. If you want to be far, that's okay too. Either way, we can stay connected, and I can be an anchor in the storm. I can offer you a good deal. So even in this moment, so what I have is we've gotten her to put her eyes on me. That's step one. We've tried to see, can we get her feet to be with me? We've got step two. We don't really have it where, we'll test it here. So then the step three would be, if I move my feet, do you move your feet to come with me? So we're going to do a bit of a drive-by. We'll see if I walk, and we're going to, oh, there we go. So we're walking together. But of course, which way am I going to go? Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and use my space and step in, because Misty is also the kind of horse that needs to feel you to really feel like she's safe with you. And so sometimes being able to step in like that, and even for me, so, I'm a person that is always trying to work on my anxiety and feel a little bit more in my body so that my horse can connect to me. And it's harder for me to feel my body when I'm standing still. But right now, walking alongside of her is even helping me become more grounded. Such a good girl, such a good girl, yeah. And so it's kind of interesting. Have any of you heard even of a therapy called EMDR? Stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Just a big fancy word. Basically, it's a trauma processing therapy that uses something called bilateral stimulation of the brain to be able to help us process big, scary feelings, like fear and anxiety and all the crappy things that come up when we've been through hard things. And so bilateral stimulation of the brain just means, good girl, that's awesome. Just means that you're getting your brain to fire left, right at one point in time. And so what you do, if you ever end up going to an EMDR therapy, it's kind of a cool way. They treat a lot of PTSD and trauma with EMDR. But they'll often put a light bar on the wall where the lights flash left, right, or you hold paddles in your hands where they buzz left, right in your hand as you reprocess intense memories so that you can take the emotional intensity out of them. But a fun fact, I've done a lot of wilderness therapy and I've done a lot of nature-based therapy, work with horses, and walking when your feet are left, right on the ground is an amazing way of kind of doing like subtle EMDR on yourself. It helps bring you back into your body, it helps you regulate those big emotions, and it helps you ground. Similarly, when I've done kayaking trips with youth, being in a tandem kayak where you're paddling left, right, some of the best conversations I've ever had are with youth in a kayak. It's fantastic. So this is kind of a trick you can use. It's actually one of the things where if I'm on a trail ride and my fear and anxiety is bubbling up and I'm noticing that I'm starting to get disconnected from my body because of the fear bubbling up, I try to pick a very intentional moment. I try not to pick a moment where it's like I'm getting off when the horse is ramping up. But if I can get to a moment where it's kind of calm for a second and they're waiting on me, I'll actually dismount and walk for a portion of the trail to get myself back into my own body. It's like me doing my own therapy work in the moment. Good girl, hi. And you can imagine that like it's hi, good girl. It's hard for her to connect with me sometimes when I'm talking to you and kind of focusing on her. But this horse is like, I can move her body around all day long, and if I don't earn her mind, I get nowhere with her. It's just so huge, and it has so trained the importance of presence for me too. Good girl. You can see we're starting to get some blinks and a little bit of nods, and I just want her to be able to soak up this for a moment because this is actually the first time that she's stood where, yes, technically Octane is behind me, but this is the first time I've actually felt like she's brought her mind be with me. Hi. And I kind of waffled on whether I was going to bring her here or not because I knew this was going to be a big ask for her. And also I was having a really great conversation with Kara a little earlier, some of the work she's done with Elsa Sinclair, just around the idea that sometimes, hi, good girl, sometimes we want to learn how to do hard things, not only with our horses, but also just in life in general. And so this idea that as much as a little part of me is like, I don't want to get my horse all sweaty and I don't want to stress her out, I know that if I never bring her to places like this and build the bond and show her, hey, just like when we're at home, I've got you, I'm going to watch for you, I'm going to have your back, I genuinely want good things for you. This is like I said, this is our Everest. This is probably one of the hardest things that I could ever ask this horse to do. And being able to come in and let her try the options, let her feel all the different things, and let her know that, like, I am still the same when we're at home, when we're here, if we go and do another clinic or something somewhere else, no problem, honey. And this is, again, you know what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to walk with her, and I know the thoughts going there, so instead of having Emma be the pressure, I'm just going to walk with her, and gosh, when she is hunting and looking for that piece of presence, like it feels almost like I'm aware of my whole right side of my body, right? Like I can feel my right elbow is talking to her shoulder. And of course, I've got to take my deep breaths and I can feel the heart rate. Good, good. Yeah, good girl. Good job. And if I wanted to test her, what I would do is I would turn, and when I'm at home, this is usually more how I would do it, I would turn and go the other way to test how committed you are to me. But this has been such a big ask for her that I'm always trying to work what I call like a window of tolerance, or their threshold, right? Like, so Tick was saying this morning that he's trying to always find, like, at a scale of 0 to 10 of an anxiety level, he's always wanting to teach horses when they're a 3 or under. And in the trauma world, when I'm doing trauma therapy with people, I'm always trying to find what is their window of tolerance. Where is the window where they can keep their mind online and we're not getting so high that we tip into fight or flight, where we kind of freak out and get overwhelmed. And also on the bottom side of that, we're not getting so low that we're getting dissociated and frozen, because that's also not a helpful place to learn, right? Like, this is where, yeah, I know, are you agreeing? This idea that sometimes we can be fooled into thinking that we've gotten somewhere when we've given up, when there's a horse that's like, their eyes have gone glazed and they've stopped moving, but they're actually more dissociated than they are engaged. For me, that's not ever what I'm looking for. I'm really I want calm and connected. I'm not looking for calm and dissociated, because the reality is, at some point, this is what we learned in good girl, yeah, good job. I believe it's Peter Levine's Waking the Tiger. He's another trauma therapist that's done a ton of work, but this idea that if you get into a freeze response, a lot of times we go into freeze when fight or flight didn't work, and then we kind of give up and go into freeze. And so in order to get out of freeze, we often have to come back out of the freeze through the fight or flight before we can come back and land somewhere in a relaxed state of mind. And so that's where I'm not actually looking for ever a freeze or a frozen response. That's where calm and connected is always my goal, not only in my horses, but also in myself, right? Being able to do calm and connected. And then we're just going to see. We're going to test. We're going to walk together. What a good girl. We're going to see. I'm going to do a little bit of you guys you're doing great. You're doing perfect. And if I come this way, yeah, awesome. Awesome. This is like sometimes what I talk about in some of my clinics. Compliments from horses, right? We were going around that way and she had every opportunity to turn right and go be with her buddy, but she turned left and came with me. And it's like, I don't know of a higher compliment that a horse like this could have. Hey, honey. And even her thought goes, and I'm just going to say, can you come back to me? Hey. As soon as her thought comes back to me, it's like, hey, good to see you. Good to see you. So this is another thing, too, with flags and moving the flag, is that we can put different intentions into different, hi, good job. There we go. Good girl. And we'll just, hi. And again, that's like Sophie's Choice for her. Oh, my gosh. Actually, I haven't read Sophie's Choice. Maybe I shouldn't reference it until I actually read it. I hear it's about a really hard decision. But this idea that just she could have turned and gone the other way, and she chose to come this way with me.